Hello everyone, this is part 49 of What If Naruto Was the Devil Ninja, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Do I really need to wear this? Of course you do. You are about to be promoted to high-class devil. There are going to be hundreds of thousands of devils present during this ceremony, and you need to look the part. But there's no orange. That's what you're complaining about. Naruto was standing in front of a mirror as Rias helped him get dressed in a tailor-made outfit. He was already wearing black pants, which stretched across his legs and showed off his strong thighs and calves. They were uncomfortably tight but at least breathable. He was also wearing a set of boots. At present, Rias was sliding his arms through a long-sleeved shirt. It was white, unlike the pants. Then a white vest went over the shirt. It shouldn't have been this hard to get dressed, but the freaking vest had numerous metal chains dangling from it. They went across his chest and were connected to golden pins on either side. The manner in which Rias affixed them to his outfit was complicated. However, once she was done, she placed epaulets on his shoulders. They were black and gold, and a long white cape with a black Uzumaki swirl was attached to them, traveling all the way down to his feet. Rias stepped back once her work was done and smiled. "You look very handsome. I look like a fruit cake. You look like a prince. A fruity prince." Giving her boyfriend an aggrieved look, Rias placed her hands on her hips and stared him down. "Are you really going to act like a petulant child now of all times? I won't be able to act like this during the ceremony. Why not do it now? Get it out of my system. You're impossible. But that's why you love me, right? Ugh, yeah, I guess, though sometimes I just want to smack you. You can smack me in bed, if you want. That sounds like a good idea. I might take you up on that." As Rias and Naruto were bantering, the door opened and in walked Vanillana and Zeoticus Gremory. Behind Rias's mother and father was the rest of the Gremory peerage, the people who fought in the rating game with Naruto, Azazel, and Metatron. There were a lot of people, and all of them were clamoring on about how Naruto looked. "Damn, dude, you look snazzy. I'm so jealous. I wish I could be promoted to high-class devil," Issei said. "You fufu, aren't you looking handsome? I bet Rias is happy to see you look so princely." Akino raised a hand to her mouth and laughed. HMPH. Rainier crossed her arms and turned her head. "I guess even you can dress up nice once in a while." "I'm digging that outfit," Kiba admitted. "Wanna wear it instead of me?" Naruto asked. "No, thanks." Koneko and Revel wandered up to Naruto and gazed at him. While the Nekosho merely looked like she was studying strange art at a museum, Revel was blushing down to the roots of her hair. "Why, you look really handsome. Not that you aren't normally handsome, but, how do I say this, you look like a prince." "I'm glad you think so," Rias said, giving Naruto a smug look. "I was just saying the same thing." Naruto wore a pained grin as he rubbed the back of his head, feeling how stupidly soft his hair was. Rias had even made sure to use some kind of special shampoo to wash his hair. She said it was because a high-class devil had to look perfect. Not only had his hair been washed until it felt like silk, but his hands and even his feet had been pampered. He felt like his masculinity was being destroyed. Naruto had nothing against people who got pedicures and manicures, but he was not someone who enjoyed them. Definitely not. Ninja-sama. "I cannot believe you are becoming a high-class devil, de Gozaru. I am overcome with emotion. Stop crying, Metatron. You're gonna stain your suit with tears." In the background, Metatron was bawling his eyes out as Azazel tried to keep him from getting tears all over his suit. Poor Angelus looked like she just had a rug pulled out from underneath on. On the plus side, Angelus was wearing a beautiful white dress that flattered her figure. In fact, all the people who'd played alongside Naruto in the rating game against Dehauser Belial were dressed nicely, including Irina. "You look really good," Irina complimented him as she walked over to his side with Rosweiss. "Thank you. You do too. Both of you look beautiful." Rosweiss and Irina were wearing dresses. Irina's dress was pure white and traveled down to her ankles. It looked like it had been made with multiple layers. The outer layer was translucent, while the inner layer was made of a thicker fabric. Her dress didn't have any sleeves, but she did wear pure white gloves that went all the way to the middle of her biceps. Even her hair had been styled into an artistic bun. Naruto didn't know who did her hair, his bets were on Graphia, but he thought the way several strands highlighted her eyes made her beauty stand out even more than usual. Roswice's dress was even more showy, an off-the-shoulder dress that revealed her slender shoulders and some of her back. Despite being a design that had no shoulders, it still had sleeves connected to the dress's main body. It was longer than Irina's, traveling down to her ankles instead of her knees, which was sad because it meant Naruto couldn't see her lovely legs. However, the dress's light blue color complemented Roswice's beautiful silver hair and eyes. He thought it fit her perfectly. They were not the only ones dressed up. Rias, Koneko, and Ravel were all wearing beautiful gowns. Rias was decked to the nines in a gorgeous crimson dress that showed her cleavage. Koneko wore a traditional kimono with rose petal designs imprinted on the fabric, and Ravel wore an outfit that resembled blue flames. Naruto knew he was actually in the underworld, but some part of him wondered if this might not be heaven. "I'm not sure I like this dress," Zenobia complained as she held the hems of her dress. Naruto wondered if he should tell her that he could see her panties. "It is too breezy. Put down your dress, Zenobia," Irina shouted. "I can see your panties." "So, I show eyes my panties all the time. That's not the point," Irina shouted when Zenobia just gave her a confused look. "There are more boys here than just eyes. You need to be a little more modest." I guess you bring up a good point." Naruto glanced at Issei, who looked like he was struggling with something. Asia was hovering next to him and dabbing his nose with a handkerchief. She didn't look very happy that her boyfriend was getting a nosebleed because he saw Zenobia's panties. "Well, it looks like everyone is ready," Zeoticus said. "In that case, we should all head out now." Vanillena clapped her hands together. "Naruto, because you are the VIP of this ceremony, you'll be traveling in your own limo. The rest of us will go on ahead of you and find our reserved seats." She placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Since Rias is your master and we are her family, we get front row seats." With these two and Azazel ushering us out, their large group was left with no choice but to leave the room. They traveled to the front of the Gremory estate. Several limos were prepared for them. After giving him numerous kisses, his girls climbed into one limo. Gasper went with them. Naruto noticed he was wearing a bag over his head like usual. On the other hand, Kiba climbed into the limo with Issei, Asia, Rainier, Akano, Zenobia, Azazel, and Metatron. The limos took off, leaving just one left, a sleek black limo with a single person standing next to an open door. That person was none other than Garifia, Sirek Lucifer's queen and wife. She bowed to him as he walked up to the limo. "It is good to see you, Naruto. I have come at the behest of Lord Lucifer, to escort you to the ranking ceremony. I'm glad the person escorting me is someone I'm familiar with." Naruto grinned at Graphia. "I'll be in your care." "Yes. Please leave everything to me." They entered the limo together, which surprised Naruto as he thought Graphia would be driving him, but then he realized there was no way his Anarchy's queen would drive a limo, not even under these circumstances. A butler was sitting in the driver's seat. After Naruto sat down on the long chair, his butt sinking into the cushion, Graphia sat next to him. She was surprisingly close. "I watched the rating game between you and Dehauser Belil," she said as the limo began moving. "You did? Of course." Graphia nodded as if it should have been obvious. Rias could not attend herself because of the promotion tests her other servants were undergoing, so she asked me to go in her stead. I was tasked with filming the entire battle from start to finish. She paused, her lips curling ever so slightly. "You may not know this, but Rias has watched your rating game with Dehauser Belil several times now. I remember seeing her sitting in an unused room with a notebook in hand as she observed your battle. I believe she is trying to see which tactics you two used that she can incorporate into her own battle plans." "That sounds like Rias. She's always working hard to improve her game." "Indeed she is." The limo left the Gremory estate and traveled toward the nearest city. During his time in the limo, he spoke with Graphia about what it meant to be a high-class devil. He had, of course, learned a lot from Vanillena, but he also felt hearing another high-class devil's perspective would be good. Greyfear was a member of the Lucifuge family from the Extra Demons, which were houses of powerful devils who were not part of the 72 Pillars. Most Extra Demons did not involve themselves with today's Devil Society. People like Greyfear and Kuasha-Abaddon, Cyrorg's queen, had cut all ties to their households in order to involve themselves with Devil Society. Was it hard cutting ties to your family? Asked Naruto. Not really. Long ago, I felt a strong sense of duty toward my family, so much so that I was willing to fight against Syrinx during the Devil Civil War that split our society in two. However, during the war, I came to realize what was really important. Once I understood that, choosing Syrinx over my family was easy. Greyfear had let her hair down, in a manner of speaking. She had not changed her hair in the most literal sense. Her maid outfit was still on, and she still looked impeccable, with not a single ruffle out of place. The change came from inside, from her calm demeanor that was normally cold as ice. She was leaning back and sipping a glass of wine. There was a bar in this limo. Drinking while acting in her capacity as a maid was something she'd normally never do. The languid smile she wore was also something Naruto was sure she wouldn't have done in most circumstances. He liked to think the reason she could be like this was because she felt comfortable around him, because she had accepted him as her brother-in-law. Once the limo reached the nearest city, he and Greyfear boarded a train, which took them to Lilith, where another limo was waiting for them. This limo was being guarded by several devils. Naruto blinked when he realized he recognized the people standing around the limo. There was Tsuji Okita, McGregor Mathers, Surta II, Bahamut, Enku, and Beowulf. Each of them were members of Syrinx Peerage, which was known as the strongest peerage in the underworld. I see, Naruto said as he smiled wryly at Greyfear. You're part of my honor guard. That's right. Greyfear was no longer wearing the languid smile he'd seen on the limo and in the train, but the light of amusement still sparkled in her eyes. Your promotion is incredibly important to Syrinx. You were going to be his brother-in-law, so he felt it was necessary to make sure the people guarding you were strong enough that we wouldn't hold you back. Well, it's not like I mind being guarded by my sister-in-law and her friends, Naruto admitted. Despite herself, Greyfear smiled. Well, hop into the limo, Naruto. We will escort you to the ceremony. Yeah, okay. Naruto climbed into this new limo, which was almost identical to the other one except 2 times bigger. He expected Greyfear to climb in, but she did not, so he looked outside and saw that she and the other members of Syrinx Peerage were flying alongside this limo. No, wait. They were missing someone. Tsuji was on the left front corner, McGregor on the right front corner, Bahamut on the left back corner, Enku on the back right, and Greyfear in the front. Where was Surta? You might want to sit back down, a voice said from the driver's seat. Naruto turned. Surta was sitting in the driver's seat. Surta II was a large man who appeared to be somewhere in his mid-30s. He stood at about 2 meters tall, which made Naruto realize that was why this limo was so big. It was likely to fit this dude's hulking frame. His orange hair, which was the coolest hair Naruto had ever seen, had been styled into an array of spikes. His large build and the wild aura emitting from him surpassed even that of Cyrorg. At present, he was gripping the steering wheel with his gigantic hands, which Naruto feared would break under this man's fierce grip. I'm surprised you're driving, Naruto said as he sat back down. You got a problem with me driving? No. It's just that I never expected you to know how to drive a limo. What are you saying? Surta shouted in anger. You think because I'm big, I can't drive a limo. I know how to drive, damn it. Don't underestimate me. I wasn't underestimating you. Surta seemed to get angry easily, so Naruto decided to ignore him for now. He'd let the dude just focus on his driving. Shouts and cheers alerted Naruto to something happening outside. When he looked out the window again, he found hundreds of thousands of people lining the streets. Banners hung in the air, people cheered his name, and there were even cameras recording his limo as it traveled down the road. Naruto finally realized why he had an escort. With so many people present, it would be easy for someone like Rizvim to try and assassinate him, but with Greyfear and the other members of Syrinx Peerage present, not even that man would be dumb enough to attack. Greyfear on her own was someone capable of fighting on par with Seraphal Leviathan. They came upon the building where Naruto would be getting promoted. It looked a lot like a palace. The structure was not just large but also ostentatious, with decorations that made him think of those medieval castles. Every brick looked like it had been freshly polished. The tiles of the room had an extra shine. There were also stained glass windows that gave this place the look of a Gothic cathedral. Even the Gremory estate looked nothing like this. That's Lord Lucifer's palace, Surtur informed him. Oh, well, I suppose I should have expected something like this from Anarchy. They turned off the main road, drove past several large columns, and reached a driveway shaped like a donut. Everyone stopped around the limo. The one who opened the door for him was, of course, Greyfear, who refused to let Surtur take that task onto himself. He wondered if it was a sense of duty or possessiveness that led to her refusing to allow one of the others to perform any tasks on his behalf. Form up, Greyfear ordered. The members of Syrex peerage formed up around Naruto, with Greyfear in the lead. Their pattern was similar to a diamond formation. Like this, they escorted Naruto up a set of stairs with red carpet and through a massive doorway. Hundreds of heads appeared in Naruto's vision as he entered the entrance hall to Syrex Castle. It looked like this was where the ranking ceremony would take place. As Naruto walked down the red carpet, Syrex peerage broke off, with only Greyfear remaining beside him. He looked toward the left, then the right. He didn't recognize all the devils in attendance, but he could spot a few faces he was familiar with. There was Cyrorg Bale and his peerage sitting in one section. Cyrorg nodded and grinned at him when their eyes met. Seraphal Leviathan was also waving at him with that enthusiastic smile of hers. Sitting beside her was her little sister, Sona Citri, who looked like she wanted to be anywhere but next to her sister. Her peerage was also present. Of course, Rias, her family, and her peerage were all there as well, though they were at the very front of this gathering. Syrex was standing on a dais, next to an altar, at the very back of this room. It looked like the dais had been set up for just this occasion. Naruto remembered his lessons from Vanillana and knelt before the dais. He felt like one of those knights giving deference to their lord. The ceremony will now commence, Greyfear said, her voice resounding through the hall. Naruto Uzumaki. Syrex stepped down from the dais and stood before him, a smile on his face. Through your numerous actions and deeds, you have displayed a strength that is more than worthy of a high-class devil, and in the rating game against Dehauser Belil, you showed off your talent to command a peerage. The 4 great Satans and the 72 pillars have decided to grant you your own rank and peerage. Stand up. I would also like to ask that Naruto Uzumaki's master come forward. At that, Rias Gremory stood from her seat and walked over to Naruto as he stood up. The two of them followed Syrex up the dais and toward an altar. Syrex grabbed a certificate from another devil, a Duke of Beelzebub, and then turned back around and looked at Naruto. The actions that earned you fame were first, your defeat of Riza Phoenix during the rating game he had with Rias Gremory. However, you have performed many great deeds since then. There was your defeat of Kokobile, your battles during the 3-faction rating games, and the time when you faced off against all the major gods from Greek mythology to rescue me and the other leaders of the 3 factions alliance. Your many acts of bravery are what has earned you the right to become a high-class devil. Now, take this certificate and accept your responsibilities. Syrex held the certificate out for Naruto, who knelt once more and accepted it. The paper was smooth but thick. This was obviously ceremonial paper. Beside him, Rias was looking on with a wide smile on her face, pride brimming in her eyes. I accept the responsibilities given to me as a high-class devil. Naruto stood up, turned around, and presented the certificate to the audience, who all cheered and applauded. It was loud. The sound might have been even louder than it was during his rating game against Dehauser. He wished he could cover his ears, but then he would have looked weak. After receiving his certificate and displaying it to the crowd, Naruto turned to Rias, got down on one knee, and smiled up at her. Her eyes were glistening and her lips curved delightfully as she accepted a crown from Syrex. She placed the crown upon his head. It felt heavy. He was very glad this was only for the ceremony today because wearing this blasted thing all the time would suck. You sure do like to complain a lot. Shut up. You'd complain too if you had to wear something so gaudy. The crowd applauded once more. Syzychus finished the ceremony by summoning a stone monument, which shone with an odd pitch-black light as it floated in midair. The monument, Naruto learned, was made from the same material as the evil pieces. He reached out and placed a hand on the monument, channeling his demonic power into it. A heartbeat pulsed through his body. The sound thudded against his chest as the monument shone crimson. His handprint appeared on the monument after he removed it, but it disappeared moments later when the monument returned to normal. His registration as a king was now complete. Syrex came back up, carrying an intricate box in his hands. He handed the box to Naruto. This case contains the evil pieces that you will build your peerage with. With this, the most crucial part of the ceremony is over. Congratulations Naruto Uzumaki. You are now a high-class devil and a king. Naruto accepted the box gratefully. Thanks, Anarchy, he said with a cheeky grin as he officially became a high-class devil. Devil Ninja. The day after the ceremony where Naruto became a high-class devil, the first thing he did was speak with Lady Phoenix, Ravel's mother. Lord and Lady Phoenix were already in Lilith. They had also attended Naruto's ceremony since the daughter was engaged to him. Even if Ravel wasn't going to marry him, he was certain they would have come since it involved the Gremory family, whom their son was originally supposed to marry. So, I understand you wish to trade one of your unused bishops for Ravel's evil piece, Lady Phoenix said. That's right, Naruto said. She, Naruto, and Ravel were sitting around a small glass table on the balcony to an extravagant hotel room. From their location, Naruto could see the city of Lilith stretch out to the horizon. It was a magnificent view, though he was hardly focused on it right now. The scent of warm tea filled his nose. Steam rose from the teacup in front of him, from which he took periodic sips. While the tea was fine, what he really enjoyed were the scones that were sitting on the table, covered in a soft glaze and carrying the scent of lemons. They were made by Ravel. Well, I knew this day was coming. Lady Phoenix grabbed her teacup and took a sip as if biding her time. Ravel, seated between the two of them, squirmed in her seat, her cheeks red. As she set the cup down, Lady Phoenix continued. Ever since the rating game between Riser and Rias, all this girl would talk about was you. It got to the point where I decided to send her to the human world so she could be close to you. Mother. Is that true, Ravel? Naruto looked at Ravel, whose cheeks nearly exploded as she looked down and meekly nodded. He scratched the back of his head, then looked at Lady Phoenix. I already knew she had feelings for me, but I didn't know that. Anyway, what do we need to do in order to trade an unused bishop for Ravel? We merely have to exchange evil pieces. After saying this, Lady Phoenix smiled as she created a magic circle and summoned a single evil piece. It was quite obviously a bishop. Naruto stared at the piece with undisguised desire, which made the smile on Lady Phoenix's face grow wider. A bishop for a bishop and a promise to treat my daughter right will be a satisfactory exchange, she said. Naruto nodded as he summoned an unused bishop. They swapped evil pieces, and as he received the bishop from Lady Phoenix, Naruto closed his hand around it and brought the piece to his chest. He thought he felt it pulse as he held it. Was it just his imagination? Naruto-sama. Lord Naruto. I don't mind if you called me by an honorific, but please pick one, Naruto said. I can't help it, Ravel complained. The author keeps changing what I call you. Damn him, Naruto grumbled. Let's just go with Naruto-sama then. I'm more used to that honorific than Lord Naruto. Okay, Naruto-sama. Our transaction is now complete. Lady Phoenix leaned back and placed her hands in her lap. What do you plan on doing now? What did he plan on doing now? Naruto also leaned back, though he crossed his arms as he pondered her question. I guess, now that I'm a high-class devil, I am going to be given responsibilities befitting someone of my station. Rias said I'd be taking on several of her duties. Naruto didn't mind taking on some of Rias's duties. No, he actually wanted to do this. His girlfriend had been working way too hard in his opinion. Ever since the war against the Chaos Brigade began, she'd been meeting with various dignitaries, working late into the night for her brother, and dealing with her duties as the overseer of Kuo City. The only times she got to rest was when he made her rest. If he could take on some of the duties she was already doing onto him, it would lighten her burden. Maybe then he and Rias could go on another date. It had been a while since they'd done that. You will also want to find other people to become members of your peerage, Lady Phoenix said. I'm sure my daughter already has several ideas regarding this subject. I do. Ravel straightened in her chair and looked at Naruto. I've actually already prepared a list of people with great potential. There are several who I believe would make great members of your peerage. As always, Ravel seemed to have already anticipated his needs and was several steps ahead of the game. He wondered how this girl could be so attentive. It was like she was constantly looking after him, which he appreciated, though it also left him a little embarrassed. Thank you, Ravel. We'll go over the list at the earliest convenience. They stayed with Lady Phoenix for a few more hours. Naruto wanted to give Ravel some time with her mother before they had to leave for the human world. After their conversation, however, Naruto and Ravel left, traveling through Lilith before arriving at the hotel Rias and the rest of her peerage was staying in. The familiar banter settled over the group, making Naruto feel comfortable and content. This was what he loved about being with everyone. He knew there would eventually come a time where they wouldn't be able to just spend time together whenever they wanted like this, when all of them would graduate from high school, become high-class devils, and form their own peerages. Once that happened, they would only be able to meet like this on rare occasions. Naruto wanted to enjoy the time they had together now so he wouldn't have any regrets later. I'd let you pop my cherry if you had the guts to come onto me. Rainier gave Issei a look that was somehow bitter and seductive at the same time. Akeno snorted. You'll have to prove yourself if you want to get a hold of Aise's one-eyed Willy. I don't need some hag who lets her own self-loathing get in the way of her feelings tell me what I need to do. You don't have any power over me. If I want to take Aise's Ascullen for myself, I will. Rainier glared at Akeno, who glared right back. It looked like sparks might start flying between them if something wasn't done soon. Asia tried to step in. Excuse me. Since Aise and I have been together for the longest time, doesn't that mean I have seniority over you both? Maybe. Like, you should ask me how I feel about this. You stay out of this, none. You fufufu, Asia-chan, please do not interfere. Akeno and Rainier turned their angry glare on Asia, who shrank back when she saw the M in their eyes. An unidentifiable but nonetheless terrifying aura was emitting from the two black-haired women. Poor Asia. Despite having become much stronger now than she used to be, there was no way a kind girl like her could deal with such dreadful auras. Alright, sorry. Speaking of illicit sexual relations, Zenevia began as she looked at Irina from over her cards. I heard from a little birdie that you and Naruto have begun dating. Oh, well, yeah, kind of. Irina looked around the room, as though doing everything in her power to ignore Zenevia's gaze. This did not faze the former member of the church at all. She continued to stare at Irina with undisguised interest, leaning forward. Irina leaned back. So, how far have you gotten with him? How far, you say? Have you kissed him yet? Or have you two already begun practicing how to make babies? We just started going out before his rating game with D. Hauser. Why would you think he and I would already go all the way? So you've kissed. Well, I see. Naruto hasn't even made it to first base with you. That's very disappointing. Oh, yeah, well, what about you? How far have you and I's gotten, huh? Regrettably, he still has not made a move on me, despite being given ample opportunity to do so. Zenevia glanced over at Issei, who caught her gaze, and then blushed and looked away. She frowned. For a man who has already had S and claims he wants to be the harem king, he is awfully shy. Zenevia, Asia began. If you really want to have S with Issei, then, she looked around before leaning forward and whispering something into Zenevia's ear. Aha. Oh, that's a good idea, Zenevia said after Asia finished saying her piece. She looked at the kind girl with astonishingly wide eyes. Would you really do that for me? Asia wore a bright, beaming smile. Of course. I mean, we're all part of the same peerage, right? So we're kind of like family. Thanks, Asia. Zenevia returned the former nun's smile with one of her own. Splitting up with Ravel, who went over to Koneko, Naruto sat down beside Rias as she continued to play a game of chess with Akeno. It looked to him like she was winning. Akeno's brow was furrowed as she struggled with her next move. From what he understood, the fallen girl wasn't very good when it came to strategy. She preferred blasting her opponents with overwhelming firepower. Rias didn't say anything as the game continues. She eventually won. Once she achieved victory, Rias looked up from the chessboard and addressed everyone. Now that everyone's promotion has taken place, we'll be leaving for the human world tomorrow. I want you all to get a good night's rest. Make sure you don't stay up too late. Everyone told her they wouldn't stay up late in their own words. The group remained in the lounge for several hours, but they began trickling out when some of them became tired. Gasper, Koneko, and Ravel were the first to leave. Kiba followed shortly after Gasper. Rainier tried to drag Issei off, but she was stopped by Akino, Asia, and Zenevia. All 5 of them ended up leaving together. Naruto heard their arguing as they traveled down the hall. Eventually, the only ones who remained were him, Rias, Rosweiss, Irina, Lefay, and Office, basically, the women who were a part of his harem minus Koneko and Ravel. We should all get to bed as well, Rias said. I agree, Rosweiss began. However, Rias looked at the silver-haired woman, who blushed upon being put in the spotlight. I was just wondering, who is going to sleep with Naruto? She asked. At that, everyone turned to look at Naruto, then looked at each other. A shiver crawled up Naruto's spine. This could not mean anything good. Devil Ninja. Naruto yawned as he sat at his desk, listening to Rosweiss lecture their class. It was regretful that she was his homeroom teacher. If it were anyone else, Naruto would have ditched a long time ago, but he couldn't do that to Rosweiss since they were dating and he didn't want to make her cry. Or lecture him. Actually, if she lectured him, wouldn't it eventually end with him flirting with Rosweiss, her being unable to resist, and them having s? That didn't sound like a bad idea. Long night? Asked Kiba. The princely member of Rias's peerage was sitting right next to Naruto. He could feel the glares from many a jealous girl boring holes into his head, but he ignored them as he answered Kiba with a nod. Rias and I were busy last night, and then Koneko decided to help out. Help out, right? Kiba chuckled and sent Naruto a sly look. You know, everyone is aware of when you guys have s. You're very loud. Am I? My bad. Hey, you two. No talking in class, Rosweiss said. I know you guys love to talk and share stories, but now isn't the time. I'm going over something important. This information will be on the next test, so make sure you pay attention. Sorry, Kiba and Naruto said at the same time. School continued, and Naruto wondered if he was the only one who felt weird being back in school after everything that happened to them. He was now a high-class devil, but here he was, attending school like a regular high school student. That struck him as odd. He knew it was just him that was the odd one. Rias, Ravel, and Sona were high-class devils who attended school, but then, maybe they were also unusual. He didn't know any other devils who attended school like they did. When classes came to an end, Naruto made his way with Kiba to the occult research clubroom, where Naruto found quite the scene waiting for him. Shiron, why won't you give your Kuroka Oni-san some love? Why must you be so cruel? Get away from me. Hiss. I can't eat my manju like this. The first thing Naruto noticed was Kuroka and Koneko. The little Nekosho was sitting on the couch like always and eating, well, she was trying to eat some manju. However, Kuroka was on the ground and looked like she was trying to lunge at her little sister. Koneko had placed both feet on her sister's face and was using her strength as a rook to keep the woman from embracing her. Unfortunately, this meant she couldn't eat her manju. So, what is going on here? Naruto asked, walking over to Ravel and Lefay. The two girls were sitting on the other couch and sipping tea. While they didn't look anything alike, both of them had blonde hair, blue eyes, and were incredibly pretty. They didn't look like sisters, but the major similarities gave them that kind of sisterly vibe. I'm not sure. Lefay gave Naruto a strange smile. Kuroka suddenly appeared out of nowhere and tried to lunge at Koneko, but I believe she came here for a specific reason, Ravel added. She likely forgot about that reason the moment she saw her sister. Naruto glanced over at Rias, who sat behind her desk, as always, but her shoulders were slumped like she was exhausted. He thought about asking what was wrong, but it looked like that might cause her more problems. That being the case, Naruto decided to address the woman causing the problems. Kuroka, why are you here? Kuroka stopped trying to hug her sister and looked at him. Her eyes sparkled. Well, if it isn't the kitsune my little sister is thing. How are you, dear? Have you been having fun exploring Shiron's body? Koneko and I have a lot of fun, thanks for asking. Kuroka pouted at Naruto's bland response, which caused him to snort. What? Were you expecting me to blush like some kind of helpless virgin? I'm sorry to disappoint you. HMPH. I am a little disappointed, but I suppose that is to be expected. You are quite experienced, after all, not like some people I know. At those words, Kuroka's eyes trailed over to Ise. The young man was not sitting on the couch but standing by the window with Asia and Rainier. Xenavia and Irina were not present, which made Naruto wonder where they had gone. Irina shared classes with him, but she had left earlier to do something. Maybe she and Xenavia had met up to discuss some important matter. Oh, don't look at me like I'm some kind of rotten virgin. Ise shouted at Kuroka's expression, his face red. I might not be at the same level as Sensei, but I'm experienced too. I mean, I've done it, and stuff. Kuroka's lips peeled back into a grin. Her canines glinted in the light. She looked very mischievous. And yet you still blush just like a virgin. Ise's cheeks turned an even darker shade of red. Naruto had the sense that things were going to get out of hand if this continued, but fortunately, Rias finally stood up and placed her hands on the desk. The act caused everyone present to look at her. That tired look from before was gone now, replaced with a stern expression that brooked no arguments and tomfoolery. I have several important announcements to make, she said. That said, I want everyone to hear what I have to say, so we'll wait until Xenavia, Irina, and Gasper arrive. What about Rosweiss? Asked Kiba. Rias shook her head. She is stuck in a meeting with the other teachers and won't be able to make it. It must have been hard being a teacher, Naruto concluded. Rosweiss was almost always stuck in meetings. Because she was often so busy dealing with school-related matters, she always found out what happened during their meetings after the fact. Everyone except them was already present. Akeno was next to Rias, Koneko was on the couch with Kuroka fawning over her, Naruto was sitting beside Luffy and Revel, Kiba had elected to sit on the same couch as Koneko and Kuroka, while Asia, Ise, and Rainier remained by the window. Sorry we're late, Irina said as the door opened and she walked in. Xenavia and Gasper were with her. I was asking Xenavia with some help on something. We ran into Gasper on the way, Xenavia added. The two girls didn't split up. Instead, they traveled over to where Asia was and those three formed a group. Now the group dubbed the Church Trio was together again. Meanwhile, Gasper came over to the couch where Naruto, Revel, and Luffy were sitting. He timidly sat down next to them. Now that everyone is here, let's get this thing over with, Rainier said at last. It's so annoying having to stand around here for no reason. You foo. If you dislike it so much, then why don't you just leave? What was that? Rias sighed at Akeno and said, stop provoking Rainier, Akeno. We have some major issues to deal with right now. Yes, Rias. While it looked like Akeno was still raring to go, she dutifully stepped back at Rias's words, and now that it looked like another fight wouldn't break out, the redhead sighed as she glanced over at Kuroka. I'm sure you've all noticed Kuroka here. She's come for the purpose of training Koneko some more. That's right. Kuroka smiled at everyone, then tried to sneak closer to Koneko, only to have the white-haired Neko shove her hand into her older sister's face. I'm here because you guys get into a lot of trouble. Could you stop squishing my fash, Shiron? Koneko removed her hand and Kuroka sat back down, sighing as she rubbed her cheek. Anyway, you all tend to get into a lot of troubling situations. That's why I decided to take the initiative and give you guys a helping hand. I plan on training my little sister and the little vampire over there. You want to train me? Gasper pointed at himself in surprise. I can't train you in senjutsu like Shiron, but I can at least help you unlock your potential, Kuroka said. She crossed her arms and tilted her head. At present, you are probably the weakest person here because you haven't properly trained in your powers. If you want to help out your senpai more, then you will need to unlock your full potential. I understand. Gasper clenched his hands into fists, looking fired up. I will do my best to grow stronger. I'm also a man of the Gremori household. That's the spirit, Kuroka said with a pleased expression on her face. I'm expecting a lot out of you, so be sure not to disappoint me. Right, Gasper nodded. There are two other things we need to talk about. The first is that we'll be meeting with a vampire this Friday, Rias said. I know you don't know much about vampires, Naruto, so let me explain. They are creatures who have existed since ancient times. Like us devils, they have similar rankings and weaknesses, but while we devils are residents of the underworld, vampires are beings that live in the darkness of the human world. We have always had something of a non-aggression treaty with them. Both of us have at one point been considered enemies of heaven, so we've always agreed to not get in each other's way. Rias took a moment to catch her breath. Naruto glanced at the others to see if they were all following along, and just like he expected, it looked like they already knew all this. She was speaking for his benefit. At present, there are two big factions within the vampire world, Rias continued. The Teepas faction and the Carmilla faction. The Teepas faction are patriarchal, while the Carmilla faction is matriarchal. We don't know much about the vampire factions aside from that, unfortunately, because the vampires themselves have remained in isolation for so long. All we know is that something has happened and they now want to meet with us. Rias tapped a finger against her desk. Because of how important this meeting is, it won't just be us meeting with them. Sona is also coming. There is also going to be someone from the church coming over to supervise the meeting, and Azazel will be present as well. Now that I think about it, my brother said something about the vampire clans, Ravel called out. He said that if we wanted to learn more about what Rizvim was up to, then we should visit the vampire clans. Do you think the reason they want to speak with us now has something to do with that? Naruto remembered Ravel telling him that before. Now he was curious as well. It sounded like Rizvim and his Chaos Brigade might be causing problems in the vampire world. After finishing her manju, Koneko stood up and walked away from the couch, her older sister trailing after her with just her eyes. The distraught look on Kuroka's face told Naruto all he needed to know. Koneko set her plate on the coffee table, then set herself on Naruto's lap. Her cute little butt wiggled around for a moment before she settled down again. The action was so natural no one even looked at her. Except Kuroka, who looked at him with blatant envy. It could be. We won't know until we meet with them, Rias said, but while her words expressed confidence, the look on her face told Naruto this meeting might not go as smoothly as they hoped. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.